So Canon just released two new cameras, the 90D and the M6 Mark II. The 90D is the replacement for the 80D, and the M6 Mark II replaces the M6. So as you can see, the usual Canon marketing logic applied here. I should actually just do a video just talking about Canon's product lineup and their naming system. Let me know if that's something you would like to see. So the M6 Mark II and the 90D are two great cameras, but today I wanted to talk about a different camera, and that is the M50. And the M50 has been out for about a year and a half now, and considering that Canon usually takes about 3 to 4 years to replace their cameras, it's still fairly new. So the 90D is a much bigger and heavier DSLR, and it's also a lot more expensive, so I think it's going to appeal to a slightly different audience. So I wanted to compare the M6 Mark II and the M50 because they're much more similar. If you're looking to buy your first camera, or if you're looking to buy into Canon's APS-C mirrorless system, I'm going to tell you 5 reasons why the M50 might be the better camera for you instead of the M6. I'm not saying that the M6 Mark II is worse than the M50 and the M50 is the better camera overall, but I'm going to tell you why it might be the better choice for you. And the first and the most obvious reason is the price. Right now the M50 body only is about $550, and you can also get the 15 to 45 kit for about $600 or $650. And also, since it's a bit older now, you can get a used one for much cheaper, usually around $450. I also got mine used, and I got the camera body and the 22mm f2 lens, the 15 to 45 kit lens, and the 11 to 22 lens, and also the Canon EF lens mount, which was like $170. I got all these together for about $950, which was an incredible deal. So considering that the M6 Mark II is $850 for body only, which isn't, you know, expensive, but it's not exactly cheap either, especially if you're going to be buying a lot more lenses. And also the M6 doesn't have a viewfinder. And there's the M6 15 to 45 kit with the viewfinder package, and that's about $1,100. And things like that can add up pretty quickly, and the M50 already comes with a viewfinder, so the price difference might be a lot bigger than you think. Which brings me to the next point, and that is the viewfinder. The M50, a much cheaper camera than the M6, already comes with a viewfinder, and as you know, the viewfinder can be useful when you're shooting out in the bright sun, and you can also use it to preview your photos, and you can much more accurately frame your photos. And the M6, the much more expensive camera, does not come with a viewfinder, and like I mentioned, you can get a separate one, but it's $200. And some might argue that, you know, they take photos with their smartphones all the time and they don't need a viewfinder, but you have to keep in mind that nowadays smartphone screens are really good, and no camera screens are going to match that. When you take your camera outside on a sunny day, you're going to find out very soon that the back screen is just not bright enough to rely on it all the time. And some people might also say that not having a viewfinder makes the camera a lot smaller, but you know, the M50 isn't exactly big, is it? And even with the viewfinder, it's actually a few grams lighter than the M6 Mark II. So even if I were someone who doesn't use the viewfinder all the time, I would still like to have the option. So think about that. And the reason number 3 is the fully articulating screen on the M50. So if you're a vlogger, or if you're into shooting selfies, you might find that having the front-facing screen is incredibly useful. One difference you might find on these cameras is that on the M50, the screen flips out to the side. You can also spin it around to look at it from different angles, and it also frees up the top part of the camera so you can mount your microphone or your viewfinder if you're using the M6. Also, when you're traveling, you can flip the screen inside out to protect the glass so it isn't exposed all the time. But on the M6, the screen flips out to the top, so if you have a microphone or your viewfinder attached, the screen is going to be blocked, which kind of defeats the whole purpose of having the front-facing screen in the first place. So I'm not exactly sure why Canon didn't use the same screen on all of their cameras, but in my opinion, this is the better screen. Number 4. Almost identical image quality. One of the biggest differences between these two cameras might be the M6 Mark II's new sensor. This is Canon's brand new 32.5 megapixel sensor for the M6 Mark II and the 90D, and the M50 uses the old 24 megapixel sensor. But how much better is the new sensor really? In the world of marketing, More always sounds better, but the differences between the 32 and 24 megapixels is not as big as you might think. It's about this much more pixels. And especially if you're going to be only sharing your photos online, then no one will know the difference. And considering that two cameras both have the Digic 8 processors, the low light performance might be very similar, and also the dynamic range. And according to Canon rumors, someone compared the files from the 90D with the files from the 80D and found out that the 90D's files had slightly better dynamic range, but the 80D is a much older camera than the M50. It's about 4 years old now, and it uses a much older processor, the Digic 6 processor. So the difference between the M50 and the M6 Mark II might be almost negligible. So especially considering the price difference, you're really not going to see much difference in image quality at all. And last but not least is the 24p. You know, I had to talk about it, and if you're a video shooter, you're probably already familiar with it. Canon decided to take out all 24p shooting options in both 1080 and 4K, just like they did with the EOS RP and the SL3 earlier this year, and it seems like that trend is going to continue. And according to many sources, Canon isn't really doing this to save cost on their manufacturing and licensing fees. They're just deliberately taking it out from all of their low to mid-end cameras, just like how they took out dual pixel autofocus from 4K from those cameras. Now obviously not everyone's a video shooter, and not all video shooters shoot in 24p, but you know, the 80D could do it, and the M50 can do it, and all of the older Canon cameras could do it. So if possible, I would like to keep that option. I mean, honestly, pretty much the only thing that Canon is doing by taking out 24p from their cameras is just making some people angry. And this isn't even protecting the sales of their higher end video cameras, because that's targeted for a very different audience with much bigger budget. So there's really no excuse. So if you are a video shooter who likes to shoot in 24p and get that cinematic look, and also get a slightly better low light performance with slower shutter speed, you should get the M50 instead. So in conclusion, the M50 is about $300 to $400 cheaper than the M6 Mark II, and also $500 to $600 cheaper if you're planning on getting the Viewfinder. And also arguably the M50 has a better screen, and you're really not going to see much difference in image quality on these cameras. And if you want to shoot in 24p, you're out of luck with the M6 Mark II. With that said, I'm not saying that the M6 Mark II is a terrible camera. It has a slightly better autofocusing system and much faster continuous shooting. It also has uncropped 4K with video eye autofocus. So just compare the differences yourself and see which camera might be the right one for you, and see if the M6 Mark II is worth that much more money for you. So that's it for me today. Thank you for watching, and if you are planning on buying any of these cameras, please check out the link down below. Those are affiliate links, and if you purchase a product through those links, I get a little kickback. And I don't ask for donations on this channel, but these affiliate sales help me out a lot. So thanks again, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.